The clouds hung low over Santa Fe, New Mexico, casting a soft, muted light over its historic streets. Among the adobe buildings and bustling plazas, the Shed, a renowned restaurant known for its iconic Southwestern dishes and upscale clientele, bustled with activity. Its charm attracted tourists and locals alike, a melting pot of vibrant conversations and clinking glasses. Tonight, however, it would serve as the stage for a quiet yet transformative experiment, one that would reveal the depths of human kindness, or the lack thereof. In a modest hotel room not far from the restaurant, Elon Musk prepared himself for an unusual endeavor. The man known for reshaping industries and propelling humanity toward the stars was about to step into a world far removed from his own. Clad in second-hand clothes, a faded plaid shirt, scuffed sneakers, and jeans that had seen better days, he adjusted the scruffy wig that obscured his trademark face. The transformation was startling, even to him. Gone was the billionaire innovator. In his place stood a man who looked like he'd fallen through the cracks of society. This wasn't just a whim for Musk. It was the culmination of weeks of contemplation and planning. The idea had been born during a conversation with a colleague about the power of perception. What if people didn't know who he was? How would they treat him if he appeared to have nothing? For Musk, whose life was spent navigating boardrooms and solving monumental problems, this was an intimate exploration into human behavior. He wanted to uncover whether empathy could truly transcend appearances. The choice of the Shed was deliberate. Known for its exclusivity and a clientele that often carried an air of entitlement, it was a perfect microcosm for his experiment. Would the warmth of its renowned green chili stew be matched by the warmth of its people? Musk wasn't sure, but he was determined to find out. As he stepped out of the hotel into the cool evening air, Musk felt a pang of anticipation. The bustling energy of the city, with its narrow streets and glowing lanterns, seemed to mirror the thoughts racing through his mind. By the time he reached the restaurant's grand wooden doors, his pulse quickened. He hesitated, his hand resting on the handle, as if to brace himself for what lay ahead. Pushing the doors open, Musk stepped into the softly lit dining room of the Shed. The scent of roasted chilies and fresh tortillas enveloped him, mingling with the hum of conversation and the occasional burst of laughter. Patrons sipped margaritas, their polished appearances a stark contrast to his own. For a fleeting moment, Musk felt invisible, a man stripped of the power and prestige that usually preceded him. The hostess, dressed impeccably in black, approached with a professional smile that faltered ever so slightly when her eyes met his. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone polite but hesitant. "Yes," Musk replied evenly, his voice quiet but firm. "I'd like a table for one." Her hesitation was brief but unmistakable, a flicker of judgment crossing her features. "We're fully booked tonight," she said quickly, her gaze darting toward the dining room, where several empty tables betrayed her words. Musk stood silently, observing the scene unfold. This was only the beginning, and he could already feel the weight of the assumptions surrounding him. Little did anyone in the room know that this unassuming man would not only challenge their biases but leave an indelible mark on their lives before the night was through. The warm glow of chandeliers reflected off the polished wooden tables of the Shed, one of Santa Fe's most renowned restaurants. Known for its exquisite cuisine and elite clientele, the restaurant carried an air of exclusivity that seemed to set the tone for the evening. As Elon Musk stepped inside, clad in second-hand clothes and scuffed sneakers, the room rippled with a subtle yet palpable reaction. Patrons glanced up from their meals, their eyes flickering with curiosity, then quickly turning back to their companions. The chatter dimmed momentarily, only to return with a slight edge of judgment woven into it. To them, he was just another drifter, a man out of place in a setting of refinement and privilege. Elon approached the hostess, her black dress crisp and perfectly tailored, her hair pulled back in a style that exuded professionalism. She greeted him with a polite but strained smile. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice measured. "Yes," Elon replied, his tone calm but steady. "I'd like a table for one." Her eyes flicked over his worn-out appearance before darting toward the dining area. "We're fully booked tonight," she said quickly, her words at odds with the empty tables scattered across the room. Elon caught her glance but chose not to argue. Instead, he stood in silence, his calm demeanor adding an unexpected weight to the moment. Across the room, the tension grew as diners began to take notice. Some whispered behind their hands, others cast sideways glances. A man near the bar leaned toward his companion, murmuring loud enough to be overheard, "What's someone like that doing in here?" Just as it seemed Elon might be turned away, a young server stepped forward. Her name was Sophia, and though new to the shed, she carried herself with a quiet confidence. Something about the man at the door caught her attention, not pity, but genuine curiosity. She saw beyond his tattered clothes and unkempt appearance, sensing a presence that demanded respect. "I can seat him," Sophia said, her voice breaking through the tension. The hostess hesitated, her professional demeanor wavering as she glanced at the manager standing nearby. He frowned but said nothing, letting the moment unfold. All eyes were on Sophia as she led Elon to a table near the kitchen doors. It wasn't the most desirable spot, but it was a seat, and Elon was grateful. "Thank you," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that seemed to disarm her. Sophia nodded, placing a menu in front of him. "Take your time," she said, her tone genuine despite the whispers that began to swirl around the room. As Elon flipped through the menu, he became acutely aware of the room's energy. Diners exchanged speculative glances, their conversations laced with disdain. "What's management thinking?" one man muttered to his wife. "This is why I hate these places," another whispered to a friend. The staff wasn't immune to the tension either. Servers huddled near the bar, their hushed conversations and fleeting glances betraying their discomfort. One of them shook his head, muttering, "This is going to scare off the regulars." Through it all, Sophia remained steadfast. When she returned to take Elon's order, she treated him with the same respect she would any other guest. "What can I get for you?" she asked, her tone warm and unhurried. "Just soup and bread," Elon replied, offering a faint smile. "That's all?" Sophia asked, surprised by the simplicity of his order. "That's all," he said. Sophia didn't question him further. Instead, she disappeared into the kitchen, leaving Elon alone with his thoughts and the stares of the room. The tension was palpable, the judgment heavy in the air. Yet, Elon remained composed, quietly observing the scene around him. When Sophia returned with his meal, she placed a bowl of soup and basket of bread in front of him with the same care she gave to every other customer. "Enjoy your meal," she said, her smile genuine. "Thank you," Elon said, meeting her gaze. He could sense that her kindness wasn't just part of her job, it was something deeper, a reflection of who she was. As he ate, the whispers around him grew louder. A woman at a nearby table gestured subtly toward him, whispering to her husband, "Why would they let someone like that in here?" Elon continued eating, unfazed. The judgment didn't bother him, it confirmed why he was there. This wasn't just an experiment about how he was treated, it was a window into the assumptions people made based on appearances alone. Sophia's courage to treat him with respect stood in stark contrast to the cold indifference of others. Elon couldn't help but admire her quiet defiance in the face of unspoken rules about who belonged at the shed. As he finished his meal, Elon's mind raced with thoughts. The experiment was revealing far more than he had anticipated, and the next phase would prove even more illuminating. But for now, he knew one thing for certain: kindness, though rare, still existed in the most unexpected places. The atmosphere in the shed was thick with unspoken tension as Elon Musk finished his modest meal. The clinking of silverware and the occasional murmur of conversations seemed louder than usual, amplified by the unease that hung in the air. Diners continued to sneak glances his way, their whispers sharp with judgment. Servers avoided his table except for Elizabeth, the young waitress who had defied the subtle disdain of her colleagues and seated him with quiet dignity. As Elizabeth cleared Elon's table, her movements were swift yet careful, her kindness unwavering despite the growing whispers. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly, her voice barely audible over the din of the room. Elon met her gaze, his expression thoughtful. "Yes," he replied. "Thank you, Elizabeth. Your kindness doesn't go unnoticed." She smiled faintly and nodded before returning to her tasks, leaving Elon momentarily alone with his thoughts. But he wasn't finished yet, not with his meal, nor with his experiment. Elon rose from his seat, the legs of his chair scraping against the polished wooden floor. The subtle sound, though ordinary, cut through the noise of the restaurant like a ripple in still water. All eyes turned toward him as he made his way to the center of the room. The manager, who had been observing him with increasing unease, intercepted him before he could speak. "Excuse me, sir," the manager said, his voice polite but firm. "If you've finished your meal, I'll have to ask you to leave." Elon raised a hand, his gesture both calm and commanding. "I'll leave shortly," he said evenly. "But before I go, I'd like to say something." The room fell silent, the murmurs and clinking silverware ceasing as if on cue. Elizabeth, standing near the kitchen, froze mid-step, her tray of empty glasses trembling slightly in her hands. The staff and patrons alike watched with bated breath, unsure of what was about to unfold. Elon reached up, removing the scruffy wig that had concealed his identity. A collective gasp rippled through the room as the familiar face of one of the world's most renowned innovators was revealed. "Elon Musk," someone whispered in disbelief, the name spreading like wildfire across the room. "Yes, it's me," Elon said, his voice carrying a calm authority that demanded attention. "Tonight, I came here not as the man you know, but as someone you wouldn't give a second glance to. I wanted to see how people treat someone they believe has nothing." The room remained eerily quiet as he continued. "What I saw was revealing. Many of you judged me before I said a single word. I overheard whispers, felt the weight of your stares, and witnessed the assumptions made about me because of how I looked." He let his words settle for a moment before turning his gaze toward Elizabeth. "But one person stood apart," he said, gesturing for her to step forward. "Elizabeth, you didn't know who I was, yet you chose to treat me with kindness and respect. That's the kind of character that matters." Elizabeth hesitated, her face flushing as she slowly approached him. "I was just doing my job," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," Elon replied, shaking his head gently. "You went beyond that. You showed empathy when it would have been easier to look the other way." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek white envelope. Handing it to her, he said, "This is for you." Elizabeth's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. She read the note aloud, her voice breaking with emotion. "Elizabeth, thank you for your kindness. Use this to follow your dreams, culinary school, your own restaurant, whatever you choose. The world needs more people like you." Her eyes widened as she looked at the check, the number staring back at her, $100,000. The room erupted into gasps and murmurs of disbelief. Elizabeth's face flushed with emotion, tears streaming down her cheeks as she stammered, I don't know what to say." Elon placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to say anything. Just keep being who you are." Turning to the rest of the room, Elon addressed the patrons and staff. "To those of you who judged me tonight, let this be a lesson. Appearances can deceive, but the way you treat others reveals your true character. Kindness costs nothing, but its impact is immeasurable." The manager, clearly flustered, nodded silently, unable to meet Elon's gaze. The diners sat frozen in their seats, their earlier whispers replaced by quiet introspection. Some looked at Elizabeth with newfound respect, while others shifted uncomfortably, realizing the weight of their earlier judgments. As Elon made his way to the door, he turned back to Elizabeth one last time. "Never lose that spark of kindness. It's rare, and it's powerful." With that, he stepped outside, leaving the diners and staff of the shed to reflect on what had just transpired. For Elizabeth, the moment was life-changing. But for everyone else in the room, it was a humbling reminder of the profound impact of empathy and humanity in a world so often clouded by assumptions. The atmosphere in the shed remained heavy with reflection long after Elon Musk walked out the door. For a restaurant known for its elegance and exclusivity, that evening marked a shift not just in its ambience, but in the hearts of everyone present. The whispers of judgment that had earlier filled the room were now replaced by murmurs of introspection. Diners sat in silence, their meals forgotten, as they replayed the events of the night in their minds. At the center of it all stood Elizabeth, the young waitress whose act of kindness had defied the assumptions of both her colleagues and the patrons. Her hand still trembled as she held the envelope Elon had given her, the weight of his words resonating as deeply as the gift itself. The check for $100,000 wasn't just a financial lifeline, it was a validation of her values, a reminder that doing the right thing, even when no one is watching, can change everything. The manager, who had been quick to dismiss Elon earlier, approached Elizabeth with an awkward yet sincere expression. "Elizabeth," he began, his voice uncharacteristically soft, "you handled yourself with dignity tonight. I think we all have something to learn from you." Elizabeth nodded, her gratitude tempered by the realization of how close the restaurant had come to missing its moment to shine. "Thank you," she said simply, her tone polite but firm. She knew the manager's words were genuine, but they also carried the weight of regret for not seeing the opportunity to lead with kindness earlier. As the staff gathered at the end of their shift, the usual camaraderie was replaced by quiet reflection. The manager addressed the team, his usual confidence now tempered by humility. "Tonight was a wake-up call," he admitted. "We judged someone based on appearances, and in doing so, we almost missed the chance to show who we truly are. From now on, this restaurant will not just be a place of elegance, but a place of respect, for everyone." The staff nodded, their expressions a mix of embarrassment and determination. Some glanced at Elizabeth with admiration, silently thanking her for showing them the path they hadn't been brave enough to walk themselves. For the diners, the lesson was just as profound. A well-dressed couple who had earlier whispered about Elon's presence now sat quietly, their faces reflecting a newfound awareness. "We shouldn't have judged him," the woman said, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. "How many others have we looked past like that?" The ripples of that night extended far beyond the shed. News of Elon Musk's experiment quickly spread, sparking conversations across social media and beyond. The story wasn't just about a billionaire in disguise, it was about the power of human decency. People began sharing their own stories of judgment and redemption, inspired by the reminder that kindness and empathy transcend wealth, status, and appearances. For Elizabeth, the impact was life-changing. With the gift Elon had given her, she could finally pursue her dream of attending culinary school. But beyond the financial opportunity, it was his words that stayed with her. "Kindness is rare, and it's powerful." She carried those words with her, vowing to use her platform to champion compassion and inclusivity in every corner of her life. As she walked home that night, the envelope clutched tightly in her hand, the city around her seemed to hum with a new energy. The stars above Santa Fe shone brighter, and for the first time in a long while, Elizabeth felt a profound sense of purpose. Her actions, born out of simple decency, had not only changed her life, but had also reminded everyone at the shed, and beyond, that humanity's greatest strength lies in its ability to care, even when it's least expected. In the end, it wasn't just about Elon Musk's experiment. It was about a young woman's courage to lead with her heart, proving that even in a world obsessed with outward success, true character is found in the quiet, everyday acts of kindness. The night at the shed became a story that resonated far beyond the walls of the elegant restaurant. Within days, news of Elon Musk's undercover experiment and the extraordinary actions of Elizabeth spread like wildfire. Social media buzzed with debates, praise, and self-reflection. Headlines like "Elon Musk tests humanity at Santa Fe restaurant" and "Kindness rewarded, waitress receives $100,000 for her empathy" dominated news feeds, sparking a global conversation about judgment, compassion, and the power of simple decency. In the shed, the transformation was immediate and profound. The management quickly implemented new training programs emphasizing empathy and inclusivity. "We can't afford to let appearances guide our actions anymore," the manager declared in a staff meeting, his voice filled with conviction. "This isn't just about one night, it's about who we want to be moving forward." Staff members who had once dismissed customers based on their looks found themselves reevaluating their biases, approaching every interaction with a renewed sense of respect. For Elizabeth, the ripple effects were both personal and far-reaching. Her story captured hearts across the globe, and she quickly became an unlikely symbol of the quiet power of kindness. Reporters sought her out for interviews, eager to understand her perspective. It wasn't about knowing who he was, she told one journalist, her voice steady yet heartfelt. It was about treating someone with dignity because everyone deserves that, no matter how they look or where they come from. The $100,000 gift from Elon allowed Elizabeth to enroll in culinary school, a dream she had thought was out of reach. Yet, as she pursued her education, she realized her purpose extended beyond perfecting recipes. She began to advocate for empathy in the hospitality industry, speaking at community events and mentoring others in the art of compassion. Kindness isn't just something you give, it's something that transforms everyone involved, she would often say, her words leaving a lasting impression on those who heard her. The story's impact didn't stop at Elizabeth or the shed. Across the country, people shared their own experiences of judgment and redemption, spurred by the lesson Elon's experiment had revealed. Teachers incorporated the story into lessons on empathy, encouraging students to think critically about how they treated others. Companies used it as a case study, exploring how unconscious bias affects workplace culture and customer relationships. Even families found themselves reflecting on the way they judged people they encountered in everyday life. As for Elon, the experiment reaffirmed his belief in humanity's potential for goodness. In a rare interview months later, he reflected on the experience. "What I saw that night was a microcosm of the world," he said. "There's judgment and bias, yes, but there's also kindness and courage. And it's those small, brave acts of decency that remind us of who we are and what we can be." The legacy of that night at the shed became a powerful reminder that the smallest actions can create the largest ripples. Elizabeth's courage, Elon's vision, and the collective self-awareness it inspired proved that beneath the layers of bias and prejudice, the capacity for kindness lies in everyone. And sometimes, it only takes one moment, one decision, to change the way we see the world and each other. The events that unfolded at the shed on that fateful evening left an indelible mark not only on those who were present, but on everyone who heard the story. It was a moment where judgment and prejudice stood starkly against compassion and decency, and it was kindness, embodied by Elizabeth, that emerged victorious. Elizabeth's courage to see past appearances and treat Elon Musk with dignity when others faltered wasn't just an act of humanity, it was a testament to the transformative power of empathy. In a world often consumed by outward impressions and snap judgments, she chose to act with integrity, not knowing the magnitude of her actions or who was watching. Her belief in the simple yet profound value of treating others with respect reminded us all of a truth we often forget: humanity is best measured not by wealth, status, or power, but by the way we choose to treat one another. For Elon, the experiment validated his conviction that progress begins with understanding. His decision to strip away his identity and step into the shoes of someone overlooked revealed both the flaws and the beauty of human behavior. By rewarding Elizabeth, he not only celebrated her act of kindness but set an example for others to follow, a call to rise above prejudice and embrace the values of compassion and humility. The impact didn't stop there. Elizabeth's story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of judgment, one act of kindness can create ripples far beyond its origin. The shed, once known for its exclusivity, became a symbol of inclusivity and growth. Elizabeth herself blossomed into a figure of inspiration, proving that small moments of courage can change lives, not just her own, but the lives of everyone she touched. This story is more than a lesson in kindness, it is a challenge to all of us. To pause, to look beyond the surface, and to choose empathy over assumption. Elizabeth's actions remind us that while we cannot always control how the world sees us, we can control how we see and treat the world. And in doing so, we have the power to create a legacy of humanity, one act of compassion at a time.